Hello, empowered woman. Welcome to this episode of the Empowered Woman podcast. Today I had the pleasure of talking to the amazing Shannon Crotty. Super fangirl moment here. Shannon is the wife and mom of three living in West Central Wisconsin, and she is the founder and CEO of the global connection company Polka Dot Powerhouse. I've been a member of the network for almost a year, and it's been nothing short of amazing. We chatted about how the organization came to be, how important it is for women to nurture relationships with other women, and so much more. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Empowered Woman podcast, the #1 show on personal growth, visibility, and profit for women entrepreneurs. If you're wanting to start believing in yourself, giving yourself permission to succeed, and let your voice be heard to make an impact in the world as an entrepreneur, this is the place for you. I am so glad that you're here. My name is Marta Spurk, and I'm your host, triplet mom, woman empowerment coach, and all things motivation extraordinaire. Welcome again, and let's dive into today's episode. Real quick, before we begin, I want to remind you about my new program, 4 Weeks to Shine Bright and Connect. I'm going to be giving you tangible relationship building strategy for connections that convert. If you're so ready to network with intention and with strategy to grow your business without being inauthentic or salesy, this is it. You can use code SHINE100 for $100 off by October 18th. All the links are in the show notes. Hi, Shannon. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Marta. It's a pleasure to be here.
I am so excited. So I usually start with a little backstory. Of course, you're going to talk about you and everything, but I'm having like a fangirl moment right now because obviously you are the founder, the creator, the CEO of the Polka Dot Powerhouse organization. And I joined recently and I fell in love with the community, with the group, and I had a chance to meet you in person recently at an event. And right away, I was like, I need to have her on my podcast. So I love you. I love what you stand for. And I'm so grateful to have you here. I would love to have you share a little bit about you and your story.
So, well, thank you. Because, when I saw you at the Foothills, Colorado event, you just have a light about you. I mean, you've already heard this. You already know this, but you have a light about you. So what's like, yeah, she's inviting me to do something, but I'm on board. I am, like you said, the founder and CEO of Polka Dot Powerhouse. And we'll probably talk about this a bit, but it looked like a failed idea from someone who thought they got sent to the wrong person, that vision. But it's a women's connection company, global women's connection company that started with one member. And now we have chapters in the UK, Canada, and right just under 3,000 members. And its focuses on sisterhood.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. And I would love for you to share a little bit about how that came to be, because the name, for people that have no idea, or when they hear the name, they're like, I don't know what this means. Where did you come up with this name? And I know you've been criticized over the name too. Right. So I'd love to hear the backstory.
To give you the shorter version, because the longer version is probably longer than we want to go into today, but I was a transplant and I realized as an adult that I didn't know how to make friends. And I owned a women's magazine and my sister Tina had passed. My sister Tina was 3 years old, me, my only sibling, very, very close to her. I had kind of grown up keeping people at a distance based on my home life. And Tina, of course, lived at my house with me, so I didn't have to have that camouflage up for her. So Tina was one of the few people that I could really relax with, one of very few people that I could relax with. And so when she passed, I was really missing, of course, I had people at that point that I could relax with, my husband, my children, a couple of close friends, but I really missed that. And I have pop rock's brain. So a lot of ideas that aren't necessarily joined or make sense. And so I was listening to readers of the magazine saying it's great to read about people, but how do I meet people like this? And I was still a little bit on the struggle bus with that too. Like I hadn't figured out the secret sauce either. So my brain was like, why do you keep hearing this? What is going on? One day my sister died about 2 years before Polka Dot. One day I was in the car. I was upset about something unrelated. I pulled the car over and I was crying. And I remember praying to my sister saying, Tina, I just need your help and I need your guidance. And all of a sudden the name Polka Dot Powerhouse was in my head. And so I knew Tina had sent me this name. I didn't know what reason she had sent it to me. And, there's a story beyond that, but we say that every new member of our community is a sister that Tina, my sister, has sent. And, not everybody believes in that, but some of the ways I hear people find us, I'm like, oh, Tina, that was a good one. I saw that one.
I love that. And I like to think that Tina sent me too, because I'm just so grateful for the community and for the amazing women that I have met. And just, there's a special feel because everyone in there, at least all the people that I have met so far, has this common desire to really get to know each other. And it's just such a different atmosphere to other groups that I've been, especially, being a part of several different Facebook groups that are not necessarily paid communities. There's lots of animosity and people are not as committed. And it's just so fun to have this common ground of when you get a friend request or when you meet somebody and you're like, oh, you're a dot. It's almost like you already feel comfortable. It's like we have this thing in common. You're probably a pretty cool person because you are also a dot. So I just love the feel of all of it. And I know that it didn't just happen overnight. It was, a culture that had to be developed over time. So I'd love to hear from you, being the leader of this huge organization now, because there's over 3,000 members now, if I remember correctly.
It's just shy of 3,000. Yeah. Just right teetering up on 3,000.
That's amazing.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And you just celebrated, is it 9 years or 10 years?
We just celebrated 9 years.
9 years. Amazing. Well, and what I was going to say is because I know lots of the women that are listening, obviously with being entrepreneurs, they have this desire to be leaders and to lead a community in some capacity, whether it is that they're creating an organization or just having their clients. I mean, as we're entrepreneurs and we have clients, we build a community of those people that we love and that believe in us. So we are leaders to some extent. And there are challenges in that capacity, obviously, because it's different personalities, different goals, different backgrounds, different cultures. And, me speaking for myself, I'm from Brazil. And so there are many things that are different that I think differently about being from a different country. And all of this comes to play because it's relationships and you have to kind of find common ground. So I'd love for you to share with us some of the key aspects that you have put in place to be able to grow this, or maybe some of the challenges that you had to overcome in this.
Absolutely. I know that we talked at the event. I'm not a script person. I just talk to people. Mm-hmm. And so I know the points I want to cover. So I'm not sure exactly what I said at your event. I've slept since then, but I think we talked about the fact that when this first came to me, the name came, Tina sent the name and then the idea, I was really terrified because I thought this has been sent to the wrong person. Mm-hmm. Because I'm an ambivert, which means I have a foot an introvert, foot an extrovert. I always say I love to spend time with my dot sisters. I love to speak, but an hour before I'm breathing in the bag. And for 3 days after, I need no people. Right. So I've got a foot in each one. I'm an ENTJ commander kind of personality. And when we started, I was a horrible connector. And I was so afraid that people were going to find out. I was just terrified. What in the world? Why would this have been sent to me? This was sent to the wrong person. And what if they find out? And over time, the dots, they knew that people can see right through you. Yeah. We're always trying to fit in that mold that we think people want us to be in. And at the end of the day, we're not hiding anything. Everybody knows. Right. But the dots over time, number one, taught me that I could just be myself. Mm-hmm. We'll go to annual celebration and there's so much that goes on before and after the programming. And I'm in my room decompressing, and there was a couple of years there where I'm like, I've got to be out here. I've got to do that image of what they think. They didn't care if I was out there or not. They were willing to accept me for me. I just had to get on board with that. Right. But I think that a great lesson is I try to be really authentic in my leadership, because the more authentic I am, the more I get close to people. Mm-hmm. And like I said, that's been a challenge for me in the past. And when we started, I didn't know how to get close to people, and people can relate to me better. Yeah. When I started, I was Googling, what does a founder eat? And what do they say? And what do they wear? For real. I was Googling it, and there's not a lot. Because I was like, what do they want from me? Because all the leaders that I saw at that point, and maybe I just wasn't looking in the right place, but all the leaders that I saw looked like they were out of the womb, perfect in this role. Like they'd gone to some special school. Yeah. And I felt like I was completely out of place. And what I learned from reading business biographies and listening to my own gut and listening more than I was talking, is that no, this is part of the process. And I think the more that leaders can be authentic, there's a difference between airing your dirty laundry and being authentic. I think people think it's one or the other. There's a difference there. The more that leaders can be authentic with their struggles, with their imperfections, how they're not balanced or necessarily perfect for this role, I think it teaches leaders behind us that you're not doing it wrong. You're not broken. You simply need to, I'm a big fan of building your team to balance you. I am extremely tilted in my strength set. Like again, a visionary with no detail skills. Right. And ENTJ, like everybody expects the CEO and founder of Polkadot to be this big, bubbly, I don't know, big teddy bear. And I'm a really nice person, but that's just not how I'm built. But what I learned, and I think we may have talked about this at the event, there's a reason I'm like that. And there was a reason this was sent to me. Nothing against free groups or only local groups. I totally respect them. But maybe if I hadn't been as commander personality as I am, maybe we wouldn't be as large as we are now. Maybe we needed that personality, but I understand enough to know that I am pretty flawed, and that's a good thing. And otherwise I wouldn't need anybody else. So we build a lot about our team to make sure that we don't topple over because I'm very slanted. Like there's nothing wrong with anyone. They just need to be aware, make peace with who they are, their strengths, and then build accordingly.
Oh my gosh. So many takeaways. First, obviously be yourself, be authentic. The difference between airing your dirty laundry, because that's what people think. And especially with me growing my business online, there's lots of talks on you have to be authentic so that people will connect with you. And oftentimes people think it's, let me take a picture without makeup, or let me take a picture of my unfolded laundry. And yeah, depending on who you're focusing on and who you help, that could be helpful, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're being truthful or transparent or vulnerable, or that people will know the real you. So, and then that leads to the other thing that you said, it's really a journey, and you can't just Google, what do they wear? What do they eat? Like you're going to have to figure it out as you go. And usually we're not patient enough. We just want to know, what is it that I need to do? And at times it just takes time, really, in the journey, in the process. Because even if somebody were to tell you, maybe you wouldn't even accept it, or you wouldn't even be capable of doing it.
Right? I say a good part of our success, or my success as far as being the leader, is trusting the gift of 300 feet, the distance of headlights. Like not, I think as women, a lot of us are geared, myself included, I want to know A to Z and how it's going to go and where it's going to go. And my brain automatically wants to go there. Yeah. But the gift of 300 feet is a gift. Like you need to accept that. The fact that you're only shown what you need to know and what you can handle right now. And when you're stronger, when you have more, when you're more capable, you'll be shown more. That's really hard for women, but that literally is what I think has contributed to a good portion of our success.
Yes. And I so agree, because lots of things that I see now and know that have contributed to my growth, at times I'm tempted to think, why didn't I see this sooner? Why didn't I do this sooner? And now I know better to know I couldn't have, otherwise I would have. And it's okay. It's amazing that I am where I am right now, instead being proud and being grateful, which brings me to something else that you said on reading business biographies. That is such an important point, because we usually tend to look at the after, right? The success, the top, the highlight reel, especially with the social media these days. And there is so much more to it. And really, that's what we should be looking at. That's what should be more encouraged, because that's what gives you more of a blueprint and more hope than just seeing the success and the way things are. And that's why I appreciated learning more about your story and the beginnings of everything, because it's just, there's so much hope to it, to say it is the way that it is right now, but she didn't come out of the womb. And I love that expression that you use. I've held on to that one because because we tend to look at people, and I know people look at me like that as well and think, wow, you just got it figured out. You were born this way. And it's like, no, my friend, it's been a journey. And it's a journey for all of us, right?
Yeah. And I had someone come up to me, very sweet person, like super well intentioned. She came up to me in an event a couple of years ago and said, I can't wait until my company's where Polka Dot is, so I don't have so much stress. And I'm like, well, good luck with that, right? Like, it's just different. It's a different level. You're more capable because, again, you've trusted that gift of 300 feet. Like, really, you had no choice but to trust it. But it's not less. Like, people waiting for it to be less stressful, people waiting for it to be like, I'm sitting on a beach. I'm sure that happens. But I'm sure when you're not watching them on their picture on the beach on Instagram, they're working, like they're hustling. And so to wait for it, to be happy with it, excited, and celebrate it only when it gets easy, like, you'll wait forever.
Yes. Yeah. And then you're going to be miserable for your entire life because you're just waiting for that moment that never comes. Something else that you mentioned that I wanted to expand on is the idea of having a team and people that balance out your weaknesses and just the things that you're not very good at. And I love this so much because I feel like, especially for women, we have this tendency of wanting to do everything ourselves and handling everything, not asking for help because it's a sign of weakness. And really, it goes back to not embracing. I love what you said. We're flawed, and that's a good thing. I'm flawed, and that's a good thing. That is hard for us to come to terms with because I guess society or whoever has told us that we're supposed to be perfect, that we're supposed to be everything. We're supposed to be introverted, extroverted, ambiverted. We're supposed to know all the details and execute and whatever. And it's just extremely overwhelming. And I have learned more so than ever that success doesn't come in a vacuum. There's no point in you accomplishing things if there's no one there for you to share it with. And really, you can't reach it without other people's help. So it's a very twisted notion. So I would love for you to share a little bit more on that and how you've come to grow the team and to work with different personalities as well.
You know, when we had the magazine, which is where Polka Dot came from initially, there was about 5 of us. And so, much like many companies starting out where you don't have much of a budget or anything like that, you had to wear all the hats. And so everybody was in everybody's lane, right? As we started Polka Dot, that was the same thing. Everybody knew everything about everything. But when you're trying, and we weren't even trying to scale, we were just trying to take day by day. But when you're trying to do bigger things, eventually, you know, you can think about a highway. If everybody's in everybody's lane, we're going to crash or everything's going to stop. And so at some point, you know, and learn from Shannon, like, do it sooner than later. Start to divide those lanes and have people pick them, because we really, and again, I think that was going back to me not wanting to admit I couldn't do, because I think, you know, people in general, but especially women, we're supposed to raise the kids and we're supposed to keep the house clean and we're supposed to also cook and we're supposed to do the jobs and we're you know, we're supposed to hold up half the world, but we're expected to hold up the whole thing. Yeah. Or at least that's the image that we've been sold and the one that we've accepted. And so when you release that and say, you know what, if that was true, I'd probably be on this planet by myself, right? I wouldn't need other people. So let's logically think about this. Why were other people put here with me? Why are people so different from each other? It's so that we can help each other. And when it is such a huge relief, like it is like 100 pounds coming off your shoulders when you release that, and it's over time, I think, that you release that, because then you're not supposed to do everything. And by the way, when you hang with people who can freely admit that they're not good at most of the things, I think we talked about this event. I believe people are only really good at 3% of the things. They suck or are so-so at the 97%. That is by design, because we're here to help each other. When you can release the need to be good at all the things, it is so much stress off of you. And people trust you and build relationship with you because it's a relief off of them not to have that expectation. So I think it's a lot to be said of who you hang with. If you hang with people who down you because you're not good at things, because you're a flawed person, I always think if someone's really perfect, they must have a lot of skeletons in their closet. Like if we're interviewing an applicant for a leader and they're looking too perfect, I actually get more worried about them, more scared of them than I would with someone heavily flawed. I mean, you know, there's a difference between like a serial killer and someone heavily flawed. I'm just saying, if someone looks too perfect, you and I both know, no, you're just like the rest of us. You're a Dean can, just like the rest of us. I always say some people are spilled out on aisle 3 and some people are on the aisle, you know, on the counter, but we've all got these problems and these flaws and things that are going on. So I think a lot of that is who you choose to hang with. Dots, and maybe this, you know, I believe things are start from the top down, but maybe me sharing my authenticity have helped the community build that, because I can't speak for 100% of the membership, but all the members that I've ever met and interacted with, they're very accepting of people for who they are. Mm-hmm. And that is who, as a leader, you need to surround yourself with people who will not expect you to be more than whom you are, and will appreciate that. And, you know, then trust you to bring what they're good at to the table too.
Yes, definitely. Oh, that's so good. And speaking of, I don't know what it is that you mentioned that made me remember your husband, because that was something that I resonated with a lot. Well, and in the spirit of, we don't have to do everything ourselves, not only as a business owner hiring a team, but as a person needing support from others, you know, friends, not necessarily business related. And I remember one of the things that you said at the event was that when you were first starting out, your husband was like, why do you need these people? Am I not enough? And that's something that I resonate with, because my husband is, I don't know if he's an introvert, maybe he's an ambivert. That's something to be discussed. But he's a homebody, and he's not, you know, people's person. Let's go out and talk to people all the time. So I don't know. We've had conversations on that sense of, am I not enough? So I would love for you to expand on that, not only in terms of your relationship, but how you see that women really need community, and stripping ourselves from that possibility really hurts us more than anything.
Yeah. And I don't know that Brian's stance was ever, am I not enough? Like, Brian has, at least he's always presented to me, we've been married for 27 years. Yeah, I'm sure he's insecure about some things, but he's got an amazing confidence about him. He just doesn't think that way. He was just like, you know, when I first moved up here, I was a transplant here, and I moved from a summer state to a winter state, like right before winter. So this wasn't super smart. But I realized I didn't know how to make friends, and I was so frustrated. It was like I had a smell on me, like she's unfriendable and she can't have friends, and, you know, got hooked up with the Mean Girls group and all that. I was so frustrated. And he was like, honey, all you need is me. Yeah. And I'm like, that's so cute that you would think that, but that's not how women work. Like, I don't know. I can't speak for all women. I can only speak for myself. I needed, even though I wasn't a great connector, I still needed connection. That's why I think like this last year and this year, at the time of this taping, is so hard, because as an ambivert, there's days I love that we're doing stuff from home sometimes, but we still need connection, right? We still need it. And so I think I hear all the time from members that their husbands start to say, you've been, you know, I wouldn't be careful how to say this. You've been kind of edgy. Maybe you should go to, you know, do you have a dot meeting come up? Because they come home so happy, right? I love guys. I have 3 guys, you know, I have 3 guys that I have a husband and 2 boys and a daughter. And I love my guys, but guys are wired differently than women. There's just no getting around that. And so sometimes it's good to be around people who understand how you're wired. Yes. And I don't think, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. As long as you're not disrespecting the other sex, which I certainly would never do. I need them. I love them, but we are wired differently. Yes. And having that time with people who understand all the pressures that are put on women and what we're going through, and understanding how things work, is reassuring, and it's comforting, and it energizes you and recharges you. I feel seen here. Yeah. I feel seen. And when I feel seen, I have that confidence to go, because we all have those days that, you know, you sit in the bathroom with your head in your hands going, you know what? This is a rough day. We all need that period of recharge with people who understand how we're wired. Yes, totally. No, I totally agree with that. And nothing against the guys either. I have 2 sons as well. And they're definitely different. It's just like what you said, being wired differently, and this need for community and understanding that being around people that understand what you're feeling, or another setting where you can be yourself and just let it all loose, and, you know, just have a good time. And that's so funny that husbands have noticed that. Do you have a dot meeting?
Go unwind a little. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I love that. Well, I would love for you to share how people can, learn more about the organization and join. I know people can visit through a friend, share a little bit more. And then after that, before we wrap up, I have some rapid fire questions for you.
Okay, perfect. So the website is polkadotpowerhouse.com. We have chapters, just around 70 chapters across the US, Canada, and the UK. However, members don't have to be members. They can be a worldwide member with no chapter near them. We have meetings both in person and online. So there's, but all kinds of membership with the same benefit. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we have Facebook groups, we have Instagram account, all those things. So it's real easy to find us. Members can attend one meeting at Polkadot, not per chapter, just Polkadot as a guest if you want to try it out first. And so find a chapter or attend the online meeting, and then start building a relationship, because there's like 3,000 women who all want you to succeed. Mm-hmm. They all want you to do what you want to do.
Yeah. And I'm going to have the links in the show notes for sure, to have people come and check it out. And I've been inviting, I'm so proud because I have two ladies that joined recently through me, one here in Colorado and somebody else that is in New Jersey, but she's in the international or worldwide chapter, and they're loving it. At first they were like, how do you keep track of all the people that want to meet with you? I'm so overwhelmed. And I'm like, no, just take it step by step. It's okay.
Right.
It's a lot. It's overwhelming, but in a good way, because it's like a whole new world opens up once you start.
Well, it's like when you were in school, like a new kid, like, wow, we all want to know the new kid. And so 3,000 women want to know the new kid when someone new joins. And so it can be overwhelming. Just, I would encourage people, when you join, be yourself.
Yeah.
We all have really high standards and firm boundaries. And I found that not everybody respects that, but the doc community respects that. Mm-hmm. We all have that. So as long as we don't accept poor behavior on a chronic, but as long as you show up as you, we'll find what you should be celebrated for.
Yes. Amazing. I love that. All right. So let me go with my rapid fire questions. It's actually 5 steps that I have in my framework of my coaching. And then I just, say each of the steps and you tell me what comes to mind. It could be one word, a phrase, whatever comes to mind. And it's always fun to hear because every answer is different because everyone's different. So are you ready?
Perfect.
All right. So the first one is notice yourself.
All the rough parts of yourself, the good parts, the bad parts, the ugly parts, they all make that quilt of awesome.
Mm-hmm. Listen to yourself.
The gut. Absolutely. Your gut is talking to you all the time. It actually took me up until the last couple of years to even hear my gut. I didn't know what it sounded like.
And I remember you talked about this at the event too, and having people tune in and what does it say? And some people were like, I don't think I've ever heard it. It's a tough one. I think we as we grow, we have the tendency of getting even more disconnected. With me having little ones, it's so interesting to see how they're born with this essence. And then with time, we end up kind of smothering it to fit the mold. Back to everything you were saying. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I think, well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
I think that we are so inundated with other voices mm-hmm. and everything that's going on that we need to give ourselves some grace. Like if you're a person like, I don't even know what my gut sounds like, give yourself some grace, because it's a miracle that any of us hear our gut with all the things that are going on, but it is an intentional practice that works.
Yes, which brings me perfectly segue here. Forgive yourself.
Wow. I as you know, I write myself a thank you note every day, and every day in that thank you note is a thank you, a forgiveness, mm-hmm. and then some fuel to continue on in the day. Some days you're the only one that's thanking and forgiving yourselves. And yes. that is it's powerful stuff. You need to forgive yourself because guilt is a useless emotion.
It really is. And it actually reminds me, because you shared some practices with us at that event and you were like, take some, take all, take none, do whatever you want. I'm just suggesting. And I actually started writing on Post-it notes and putting it in a mason jar. So I love this practice. Thank you so much for suggesting that. The next one is empower yourself.
I think that we all have a next level that we want to get to, but I think that not everybody's learned to use fear as fuel. Like fear can be used to stop you, or it can be used to propel you forward. And that is simply a muscle that needs to be developed. So empowering yourself, I think, is not only, I think people think it's confidence. It's actually developing tools that help you, because we're never going to stifle fear. But fear can be, the most awesome fuel in the world that empowers us toward wherever we want to go.
Right. If it's going to keep coming back, you might as well use it to your advantage.
Right. Like be an engineer and figure out how to bottle that and use it as fuel. Absolutely.
Love it. And last but not least, transform yourself.
As we talked about at the event, I think everything, just like everything's either love or hate, I think everything is either distraction or focus. And I think the biggest key factor to success, there are times we need distraction. There's no doubt about that. We can't be focused all the time. But I think one of the major keys to success is focus. And that's there's a lot of components to that. People that we're surrounding ourselves with, are a contributor to that. What we're feeding ourselves mentally is a contributor to that. And what we speak to ourselves is a contributor to that, and our habits. So, I think that, what was your initial question? I got lost.
Transform yourself.
Transform yourself. I think that we have it within us, right? Like we sometimes forget that, but we have it in us to become whomever we want to become. But I also think we have to remember that we're not broke. None of us are broken, right? We have things we want to tweak, get better on, improve on. But to have anybody say that you need to change is not, in my opinion, it's not the truth.
Totally. Well, and I always say that.
Yeah.
I always say that to me, transformation is reaching new levels of self-acceptance, and which speaks beautifully to what you said, and notice yourself, notice all of you, because that's the only way you can love all of you and accept all of you, is to look at all the things and embrace what you said. I'm flawed, and that's good. I love it. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Shannon. This was such a great conversation. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, and I'll link all the stuff in the show notes for people to connect, not only with you, but with Polka Dot Powerhouse. And I so appreciate you.
Thank you so much. It's an honor, and you are a joy. So thank you so much.
How amazing was that? Isn't she great? And aren't you so ready to join PDP, as we call it, Polka Dot Powerhouse? If you want to check it out, like we mentioned, you can attend a meeting for free as a guest and see what you think about it. You could attend one in person if you have a chapter close to you, or a virtual meeting as well. I am putting my referral link in the show notes so that you can go ahead and look around and explore. I've had a couple clients who have already joined because they really they see me talking about it all the time, so they decided to check it out, and they have made amazing connections already. So why not you? Go ahead and check the link in the show notes. Also connect with Shannon. And finally, don't forget, Shine Bright and Connect. We're starting October 26th, and you can't stay out of this. This is going to be my last group coaching program of the year, and you just have to join us. All the links are in the show notes. Until next time, bye.